You're listening to Cherrypickin Entertainment.
Throw me the ball and watch what I do with it.
You are now tuned into the Cherrypickin podcast with your host, Andre Cherry.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome into the Cherrypickin podcast. I'm your host, Andre Cherry, back for another week of the Cherrypickin podcast. Can you believe that we are already in week 3 of the college football season? Doesn't it feel like the season just kicked off like a week ago? And we are already 3 weeks in. That is crazy to me. There were a bunch of great games yesterday. I was watching most of the action in my office. I had a split screen going on through YouTube TV, which I think is a great thing that they've done. We can watch 4 games at once. That's how I watch my NFL games as well. But it's so cool to have that split screen feature up there, or that box screen feature. You can see all the games that I care to watch all at the same time, which is awesome. So I was watching Duke versus Illinois for much of the day, much of the morning games or early afternoon game here in Philly. But as I was watching the Duke versus Illinois game, it was actually a pretty compelling game in the first half prior to Illinois jumping out to an insurmountable lead in the second half against Duke. However, during the lead in to that game, I was reminded how Duke's transfer quarterback Darian Mensah secured himself the largest NIL bag to date. Duke secured a commitment from Tulane transfer quarterback Darian Mensah back in December of 2024 in an NIL deal worth over $8 million over 2 years. So his $4 million average annual salary unofficially makes him the highest paid player in the history of college football. That's stupid money. These kids are getting stupid paid. It's insane how much money that these kids are getting in college ball. And I was a proponent of NIL. Like I believe these kids, because they are kids, should get their money. But it's insane that they're making millions of dollars like that. Especially at a basketball school like Duke. They paid their transfer quarterback $8 million, 4 years annually, to play quarterback at Duke. A school that isn't historically a football school at all. Certainly you could say, Coach Steve Spurrier came from there. They've had maybe some good people, some good players come out of that program over the years, but it's not a football school. And the fact that they're paying that much money on a quarterback shows the state of the game these days and the state of college athletics. It's money, it's big business. And the fact that Duke is willing to pay $8 million for Darian Mensah, who kept him in the game for the first half, like I said, but then Illinois just proved to be too much in the end. They pulled away. But it's crazy to me how much money is in college sports these days. And I wish I could go back in time and be a stud football player or a stud athlete and secure the bag for my family as a kid. Like $8 million. Because how much money do you really need to survive? I know everything is getting more expensive and things feel more uncertain these days, but $8 million can still go a long way if you budget it correctly, if you invest correctly and wisely. I feel like I could set my family up as a 19-year-old kid playing football at Duke or NIU or wherever the case may be. It's just insane the opportunities that these kids have, these student athletes have, to really change their whole family's lives. And we're just in some crazy times these days. The fact that they're getting paid like this. Because I was thinking with the NIL, maybe they'll get a few $100,000 a year to play ball. No, these kids are making grown man money. They're in the highest tax bracket possible, making $8 million per year. Like, it's insane to me. I can't believe it. But, shout out to Darian Mensah for securing the bag. That's awesome. And shout out to Illinois. They got the victory on the road against Duke. They keep their hopes alive, and they survive another week undefeated. So that's what's up. Now I want to talk real quick about the comments that Mike Gundy had made this past weekend, or leading up to the action this past weekend against the Oregon Ducks. Mike Gundy, he's had a great college football coaching career. He's provided us some great sound bites. He is now in his 21st season at Oklahoma State, and last season his Cowboys only posted a 3-9 record. But prior to that, Mike Gundy, he was the mark of success in college football. Routinely, his teams would post 10-plus win seasons each year. And it feels like right now, maybe things are getting a little stale. Maybe he's hitting a tough spot right now. But Mike Gundy has been a heck of a coach. Love him or hate him, he has been a tremendous coach for college football. Apparently, Mike Gundy made some comments this past week, I think last Monday. He has a radio show. He does a radio hit. And Gundy said, Oregon is paying a lot of money for their team, citing a $40 million amount that he believed the Oregon Ducks spent on their roster last year. So Gundy made several other comments about Oregon's resources, saying, and I quote, "It'll cost a lot of money to keep quarterback Dante Moore, and he believes that Oregon's budget should determine the programs it schedules outside of the Big Ten." Coach Dan Lanning fired back. He had comments of his own, but overall, it was just a bad look. I believe Dan Lanning also had comments that said, and I quote, "It never requires extra motivation for an opportunity to go out and kick ass," Lanning said post-game. "But it never hurts when somebody pours gasoline on the fire," end quote. And Dan Lanning is definitely a guy that keeps receipts. That guy loves when people talk sideways about his Oregon Ducks or sideways about him. He uses any sort of opportunity to really fuel the fire, to get his teams motivated. I remember Coach Prime had some comments back in the day, or maybe last season, when they played each other. I believe it was last season. Dan Lanning in particular loves to dunk on people. This was an opportunity where he ran with it, and his Ducks blanked Mike Gundy's squad like 35-0. It was something crazy. Let me find the score here. Oh, 69-3. Jesus. Jeez Louise. That's insane, man. The Ducks posted scores of 20 points in the first quarter, 21 points second quarter, 28 points in the third quarter, before calling off the troops in the fourth quarter. Oklahoma State only kicked a field goal in the second quarter. That's embarrassing, man. And Oklahoma State is known for its offense. But, Oregon Ducks were hot. They were angry. And I saw some people on Twitter say, maybe it's time that Oklahoma State kind of moves in a different direction. 21 seasons or 20 seasons is a long time. You had a great career, Mike Gundy. We appreciate everything you've done, but maybe it's time to just move on. And I don't know if those conversations are going to happen or have had happened, but you do wonder what the future for Oklahoma State looks like with Mike Gundy in it. If that's the level of effort they're going to give against a marquee team. Oregon, number 6 in the nation. Oklahoma State used to get up for big games, but if you're going to get embarrassed and not even show up, it's like maybe we're better off with a coach in waiting or something else, an interim coach, while we figure out what the next move is. But that's embarrassing, and don't say stuff like that if you can't back it up. And he's the head coach. He's not on the field. He's not suiting up and playing. But you put your team in a crazy position to have to respond to stuff that you said on the radio hit. Stuff that you knew would be used on the bulletin board. It's like you didn't really help your team out by saying fly stuff like that. And it's like you kind of have to question, what is going on with Mike Gundy? Like, what is he thinking about? Why would he do that for your team to get embarrassed like that? That's rough. That's rough to come back from. For real. Unfortunately, Oklahoma State gets a week off. They have a bye before they suit up again at home against Tulsa. But yeesh, that's rough, man. That is rough. And then real quick before we dive into my week 3 top 5 locks for Power 4 action, I did want to take a look at that UF versus USF loss. The Gators lost to the South Florida Bulls by a score of 18-16. It was Florida's first defeat at home against a school from Florida, other than Florida State or Miami, since a 16-14 loss to Stetson in 1938. Can you believe that? That's crazy. Head coach Billy Napier had some comments, and I quote, "It's not good enough. We've got work to do. You guys know it. I know it. Anybody that watched it knows it. We got to take ownership of it, and we got to go back to work. That's it." End quote. So I'm sure Billy Napier's team is working hard today and this week, leading up to their next matchup against LSU this upcoming weekend. But you got to think that the loss is putting immense pressure on Billy Napier, whose teams are 20-20 in his 4 seasons at the helm down there in Gainesville. Florida started 1-1 for the 4th straight season, and its schedule is hard. It's going to get real tough real quick here. Real treacherous. With 4 straight games against ranked foes. LSU is ranked number 3 right now in last week's AP poll. If the Gators move on from Billy Napier, they would owe him a $20.4 million buyout if he's fired, including 50% in the first 30 days of his termination. Jeez Louise, man. But I just told you that Darian Mensah, he has $8 million in NIL owed to him these next 2 seasons, but it's like, $20 million. Maybe that's just a drop in the hat for a school like Florida. Maybe you just kind of cut him loose early. And Billy Napier, he had more comments that he shared after the game. He said, and I quote, "We created it. We deserve it. If you play football like that, you're going to be criticized. It comes with the territory, right? Only thing you can do is to get it fixed, and that's what we'll start working on tomorrow," end quote. So I'm sure he's got his boys running hard right now. They're running, watching film. Like, they're doing all the things they need to do to get them prepared for a matchup this weekend against LSU. Good luck to him. But I just think it's crazy that the Gators just aren't the program that they used to be under Billy Napier. Like, you used to be impressed by Florida each season. Florida would ball out each season. And it's like, these guys are like not even thought of in the same conversations with a Texas or an Alabama or an Ole Miss. It's like Florida is, yeesh, they've seen better days, for real. And according to ESPN, the South Florida Bulls are only the 4th team in the AP poll era since 1936 to win their first 2 games against ranked opponents while being unranked. So they joined the ranks of 1976 North Carolina, 2008 East Carolina, and 2012 Oregon State. The South Florida Bulls, they play number 5 Miami next week, and they'll try to become only the 5th team to start a season 3-0 with 3 wins over ranked opponents. So that'd be 1987 Miami, 1985 Michigan, 1960 Iowa, and 1954 Oklahoma. Do you remember that one? Of course you don't. You weren't alive. Those were the other ones. But shout out to South Florida, but yeesh. Good luck to the Gators and Billy Napier, who just seems to have 9 lives. Now we'll go ahead and hop right into the top 5 locks for week 3 action within the Power 4 conferences. We'll start in the ACC, taking NC State over Wake Forest. State and Wake Forest have played in this rivalry every year since 1910. This is the 119th edition of the conference's longest continuous rivalry. NC State dropped an L last year, losing 30-34, but I'm on the NC State train right now, especially after their big win against UVA this past weekend. I'm not as high on head coach Dave Doran right now, but I am a believer in quarterback CJ Bailey, who went 16 for 23 for 200 yards and 1 touchdown on Saturday. Also, Wolfpack running back Hollywood Smothers, which is a crazy name, Hollywood Smothers. He looks like a real deal playmaker. He rushed for $140 on 17 carries with 2 touchdowns. These two guys single-handedly kept the Wolfpack in the game last weekend. I think the Wolfpack will jump out to a 3-0 record before traveling down the road to face Duke on September 20th in Durham. So I'm taking NC State over Wake Forest in the ACC. In the Big Ten, I'm taking USC over Purdue. USC and Purdue are meeting in West Lafayette for the first time since 1976, where the Trojans came away with the 31-13 victory over the Boilermakers. Both of these squads are 2-0 right now coming into this matchup, and USC's offense has been explosive early this season. The Trojans have outscored its opponents 132 points to 33. The 66 points per game is best for second overall in all of FBS. So quarterback Jaden Mayava went psycho mode this last weekend in the Trojans' victory over Georgia Southern, as the signal caller threw for 412 yards with 4 touchdowns. And on defense, Philly native Eric Gentry led the defense with 10 total tackles, 1 sack, and 2 tackle for losses for the Trojans. I like USC to win big over Purdue on the road this weekend. I'm taking USC over Purdue. Then in the Big 12, I'm taking Pittsburgh over West Virginia. West Va and Pittsburgh renew the rivalry in the annual backyard brawl. Pittsburgh has claimed 2 out of the last 3 wins in the series in a matchup that feels like it's always a close one. However, this year, I feel as if Pitt has the opportunity to blow the doors off of West Virginia, who struggled mightily last week against the Ohio Bobcats, who will undoubtedly be one of the best teams out of the MAC conference this season. In West Virginia's loss last weekend, the Mountaineers were held to only 72 yards rushing, committed 8 penalties for 85 yards, and were held to only 250 total yards for the day. Meanwhile, Ohio was able to gain 429 total yards on offense against the Mountaineers' defense, and were still able to win the game despite turning the ball over 3 times. West Virginia was killed on the time of possession as well, as Ohio had the ball for over 40 minutes compared to just under 17 minutes for West Virginia. The Mountaineers will get punished by Pittsburgh on Saturday if they play like that again. I think Pitt gets the win while the Mountaineers' confidence is low right now. So Pitt over West Virginia out of the Big 12. Then out of the SEC, I'm taking OU over Temple. Looking forward to this rare showdown between the AAC and the SEC this weekend when a red-hot Oklahoma comes to Philly this Saturday. I'll actually be out with my staff in the stands at the link for this game. Temple has played well so far in the first 2 games of the season as well, but this is where things get really interesting when the Sooners visit. And it's kind of funny to me that OU also played my alma mater, Illinois State, to open up their season, and now they make a stop to my new home in Philly, which is, it just feels like it's a full circle moment in a weird way. The Owls have looked good, especially on offense. Last season, the Owls posted a dismal 19.6 points per game, but so far this season, under new head coach Casey Keeler, the offense has looked more dynamic, and it has posted 48.5 points per game through the first 2 weeks. Transfer quarterback Evan Simon from Rutgers, he's in his second year here at Temple. He will be the key to Temple's success this season, so I look for him to play in control against Oklahoma. But I believe the Sooners will pull away in the third quarter of this game and will be no match for the Temple Owls. So I'm taking OU over Temple in the SEC. And then out of the SEC, we talked about it just moments ago, LSU over Florida. And I'm sure Florida is having a hard week of practice this week in preparation for this big-time matchup against LSU, especially after dropping a heartbreaker against USF last weekend. Gators head coach Billy Napier, like I said before, it feels like he's got 9 lives over there. These last few seasons have been mediocre at best, but I suspect this year is make or break. Hell, I think this game against the LSU Tigers might seal his fate in Gainesville. So, for real, if he loses this game, I think he's sent packing on a separate charter plane out of LSU, away from the team this weekend. It could be that bad. But the same could probably be said about Brian Kelly at LSU. Like, he's a good coach, certainly, but expectations are through the roof down there in Baton Rouge. A 9-4 record and a number 4 finish in the SEC won't cut it this season. He needs to win. I think his Tigers will win big this weekend, though, against the Gators to keep their playoff hopes alive. So I'm taking LSU over Florida. And those are my top 5 picks out of the Power 4 conferences this weekend. I'll run it down for you one more time before we get out of here. In the ACC, NC State over Wake. In the Big Ten, USC over Purdue. In the Big 12, Pittsburgh over West Virginia. In the SEC, OU over Temple. And in the SEC, LSU over Florida. So there we have it, my friends. That's my Week 3 podcast. Can you believe we are already in Week 3? I cannot. College football season it goes by so quickly. I'm trying to enjoy every moment. I'll be out there at the game, at the link to see Temple versus OU. Hope you guys have a great seat at whatever games you go to this weekend, or maybe you're watching the games on your couch. Hope you have a good time. Hope you stay safe. Hope you have a great week. And I cannot wait to talk to you soon. Take care, everybody. Have a good one. Peace. When a red-hot Oklahoma comes to Philly this Saturday, I'll actually be out with my staff in the stands at the link for this game. Thank you again for tuning into my Cherrypickin podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please feel free to subscribe to my show and drop me a rating on Apple Podcasts. All of my digital content can be found at the website cherrypickinsports.com. And if you are looking to interact with me via social media, my Twitter handle is @cherry_pickin. That's PICKIN. On my Twitter, you'll also find a link to my blog where I post my weekly college football predictions and analysis. I can also be reached via email at cherrypickinsports@gmail.com. Please feel free to reach out to me regarding what you like about this podcast or about what content you'd like to hear more of on future episodes. I sincerely thank you for your support, and I can't wait to talk to you again soon. Take care.